Hey folks, welcome to the second episode. Wow, that light is killing me. Anyway, second episode of Backyard Prepiversity. I am Jason Hyatt, and you are on the CTW TV network. Look, I got it out this time. Today, we got a little dirty in the backyard, so we'll be going over some of those pictures and talking about some of the things that have been done. We're going to go over a list of things you need to start acquiring to build your aquaponic system or your gardening system. We're going to take a look at some of the things that we'll talk about next week when my buddy comes on and we talk about goats and chickens. But if you're trying to get ahead of the game, we'll talk about some of the things you probably need to purchase now that it's chicken season. If you go to Tractor Supply, it's chicken season. They have all their little baby chicks everywhere, and all the materials and their kits that are cheaper than buying them individually. So we'll get to that. But like I said, welcome to the second episode. And let's get it started. So today I figured out that I don't like rotary tillers, at least hand-done rotary tillers. I don't like them one bit. There it is. Okay, still a little fuzzy on the edges, but I'm sore, as most of you guys will be if you embark on this journey in life. But majority of you probably don't have access to farm implements, aka my lovely Betty Lou, my 1968 Ford 2000 3-cylinder gas tractor, which I can't use because the lift arms aren't working, which we will do a whole segment on rebuilding the top plate for that thing. Well, at least pictures, and we'll talk about it, because y'all probably don't want to see a video of me cursing and screaming and throwing tools. But that way I can use the lift arms, and then I can get the PTO-driven Yanmar 6-foot wide rotary tiller out and do this a lot quicker. But since you guys cannot or may not have access to these tools, these farm implements like I do, I went and borrowed a old Craftsman tiller that my buddy put a Predator motor on from Harbor Freight because the last one blew up. And I've been doing this tilling by Armstrong method. And it's been entertaining, to say the least. So today we tilled a 16-foot wide by 12-foot long section of the area. And I'm going to start popping these pictures up. So bear with me as I get to them. All right. I don't know if you guys could hear me during all of that. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, got it. Ah, better? Good? All right, let me go back. I think we got it. I think I hit the wrong thing. All right, now you can hear me. I hit the wrong button. I apologize. We'll go back. All right, so from the fence to the outside edge of that tilling area is 6 feet. And this was a test run to see how bad things were going to be with this wonderful tiller. And I was right, since we planted a mix of different types of grasses with clovers and everything last year for our goats that we had in here previously. You know, we wanted them to mow the grass, so we planted everything with this mixture. And then now we don't have goats. But this was 2 passes. Lovely. You can tell the darkness. All right. So about halfway through the screen, it goes from red to black. You can tell where the goats pooped a lot. And that actually improved the soil content. So by the fence, it's red dirt clay. And as you move away from the fence, it gets really good soil. And this is how I ended up. That's 6 passes with the tiller, trying to get it ready. Now, between the 2 fence posts you see is where the greenhouse is going. Those fence posts are 8 feet apart. Greenhouse is 6 feet wide. So to level this, since my backyard is not level, as you can tell by looking at the hill, I was going to have to dig a trench to put the concrete block in to get them level, to put the greenhouse on. So I figured I've got the tiller out. I'll just till the whole area and then rake it smooth, and then put the concrete block down, tap them level, then put the greenhouse on top, which now means I'm going to be doing a little more work, but I think it'll work out better. So that's where we're at. That's what has been accomplished in the greenhouse build. This weekend is supposed to be Saturday into Sunday, 24 degrees, and Sunday into Monday, 32 degrees. I'm hoping that's our last 2 super cold days, cold evenings for the spring. And then we can actually start planting stuff. But I'm hoping to get the greenhouse at least mostly built by then. It is a kit. It says it takes 2 people. I'm a one-man band. So we'll see how it goes. So that's where we're at. Thanks, Kevin. I see your comment there. But that's where we're at with the greenhouse build and the progress made. And I promised everybody I would share the build for the goat house that we did last year. This is all scrap wood that I found in piles by the contractors that were throwing everything out after building houses in our neighborhood. So all of it is, you can see that giant pile off to the left. Scavenged wood. Didn't spend a dime on wood, which was good because wood's expensive even last year. And then we built it in the front yard and carried it to the backyard, which I do not recommend. Build it where you're going to put it because it's a lot easier to move it. Trust me. Even though this thing doesn't look heavy, it was pretty darn heavy. The floor in the goat house is removable. All the planks, none of those except for right in front of the door. So the doorway is not removable because I didn't want them flipping up on the goats. But from the doorway over to the right, all those planks come out so I can scoop the goat poop out as I needed. And then, well, that picture's kind of in the wrong spot. But as we were going, I added things. Because one of the rules in life is you always improve your structure. That's Delilah. She's a Nubian. She was one of the goats we've had. She still belongs to my buddy Dean, but that's how it was. So this was our goat enclosure. As I was talking about on our live video earlier, the area we're working in to put our aquaponics garden in is 24 foot wide, 56 feet long. It has an 8-foot gate, 4-foot tall no climb fence because we have dogs. And yeah, those were the goats. And that was Fred. But as you can see, we got all this wonderful foliage back there. And those are the 2 baby Nubians in their new place. And you can see, we have a hot fence. We'll be bringing that back up and getting it running again when we get our chickens back there to keep out critters, aka Dutch Shepherd puppies. So, okay. And I'm back. See? So that is all the work that has been done in the backyard. Of course, today was overcast and a little bit rainy. I don't recommend tilling when the ground is soggy. But fortunately for me, it wasn't too bad today. It did clump up a little and make it a little bit more difficult. So if you're going to till, wait till it's, the ground's a little dry. But we can't wait all the time. So let's get into this list of things that if you're wanting to do an aquaponic system in your backyard, the list of things you're going to need to acquire. I wouldn't recommend ever going to buy a kit from these people because they're charging an astronomical amount of water or a lot amount of money. And yeah, water is one thing you're going to need. But your basic setup is a tank, 1 tank for your fish. You're going to need a water pump. You're going to have to build a grow bed. You're going to need some type of media, grow media, air pump and air stones. They go together. And your pipes and tubes. I know, sounds pretty basic, pretty basic, and it is. Because aquaponics, well, you're going to need bulkheads or seals too, because if you're going to run holes through tanks, you're going to have a way to seal it. But aquaponics is pretty simple. It's using fish poop to fertilize it, to make fertilizer for your plants, and it is self-contained, but we all know plants use water, so eventually you're going to have to replenish some of your water, and it evaporates, so you're going to have to replenish it. And I have a plan for that, not having to hook up a water hose, but we'll get there. But the basic aquaponic setup is relatively simple. You got a tank prepared for fish to live in and create waste. You got an air pump with air stones, aerate the water. You got a water pump to force the water, nutrients, and air into the growing beds. All right, so the plant roots are anchored in growing media. They soak with the water, air, and nutrients. A drain pipe, gravity feeds the water back to the fish tank, and the cycle repeats infinitely unless the tank dies. Or unless the pump dies. They do recommend having at least 1 fish per plant you want to grow. I have 244 plants. Not all of them are going in the greenhouse in the aquaponic system. Some of them are going in the ground. But I am digging a 3-foot by 4.5 foot by 4 foot deep pond inside the greenhouse, which comes out to 54 cubic feet, which is 403 gallons. So one thing I figured out today while mathing is I need a bigger pond liner. The one I have is for a 200 gallon pond, and I'm digging double that size. So that $42 pond liner, $43 pond liner from Lowe's isn't big enough for what I'm doing. So the next size up that holds 400 gallons is $72. So those that are following along with the cost of this thing, it just went up by $30. I will be using the smaller pond liner because, like I said, I have more plans. To replenish the water without using city water is making another pond, a smaller pond, decorative, pretty pond up by the house that I can take the water out of and replenish my other pond. So backup systems to the backup systems to the backup systems. So back to this aquaponics. All right, so growing media. Let's talk about growing media. All over the interwebs, you'll see people using these little clay balls. Supposedly they're good for they're not harmful to the environment, but if you do a little more research, when you stop using clay balls, they can be harmful to the environment. So once you have them, their only use in the world is aquaponics, and say you don't want to do aquaponics anymore and you want to dispose of these, they can be really hard to get rid of. Mostly there's choking hazards for small animals, and they get crushed and they're introducing different nutrients into the ground that maybe your yard or the ground that you're at, I don't know, nitrates, nitrides, and all this other stuff. They're saying it can be harmful, but my point of not using them is they're super expensive. For like 30 pounds, you're over $100. And that's not cool with me. So I will be using lava rock because it's lightweight, it's readily available, it's inexpensive, and it's actually better for your plants. Because as the water goes up, it deposits the nutrients in the holes in the lava rock, and the water recedes, your plants still have, all those nutrients in the lava rock. And like I said, it's cheap, it's lightweight, and it's useful. And as all the research has told me, it's better for me. They say you can use river rock as long as it has a low carbonate base in it. So to test it, you're looking for, you get a bunch of them, you put it in a jar, and you fill it up with white vinegar. If you got a ton of bubbles, don't put it in your aquaponic system, because it will mess up your pH balance and can kill your plants and kill your fish. But if there's no bubbles, no harmful stuff, you're good to go. So you can use lava rocks. Good thing about aquaponics is there's no dirt. You don't use dirt at all. Matter of fact, when you grow your seedlings, you clean all the dirt off the roots, put them in the rocks or in your grow media, and you bunch it up against it and let it go. No dirt. Like I said, we are going to be learning this together. So your grow beds. The grow bed is your other container used for aquaponics. It holds the growing media plants and bulkhead that connects the drain pipe, which returns the water to the fish tank. It's pretty self-explanatory. I am double stacking my grow beds. I'm going to have the lower grow bed is going to be like lettuce, tomatoes, or lettuce and, shorter vegetables. And the top one, probably the same thing. I really don't have a detailed plan of what's going in each grow bed inside the greenhouse yet, other than lettuce and spinach and stuff I want to grow through the year. And like maybe some cabbage later. When it starts getting cold, the greenhouse is going to be the only place stuff is going to grow. So all of that stuff that's too hot to grow in the summertime in Georgia, I'm going to try to grow in the greenhouse in the wintertime. So iceberg lettuce and some of the other things. But honestly, in aquaponics, you can grow anything. Tomatoes, anything but tubers. I haven't really figured out the tuber thing because, you might get rocks in your potatoes if you try to grow them in aquaponics. So that's why I'm staying away from that. But aquaponics, you can grow anything. So they say. Air pumps obviously get pumped to air your fish through the stone. So you can oxygenate the water because you don't want them to die. And PVC pipes, tubing, make sure it's smooth on the inside. That way you're not trapping bacteria and creating harmful bacteria to feed your fish provide back to your fish and feed your plants. You want the water to go through cleanly. So try to avoid 90-degree angles. Try to avoid ridged piping or ridged tubing, because your fish solids and your plant solids can get stuck in those ridges, and then harmful bacteria will grow and will end up killing your plants and your fish. So as you're looking at this stuff, make sure stuff is smooth. It's important. Smooth stuff is good. It reduces the amount of pressure put on your pump, and it keeps stuff from growing in your pipes. That'll kill your fish and your plants. So there is a few different ways to do it. Set up your grow beds. You got the media beds, which is what we're talking about doing. And you got your deep water cultures. It is basically the fish tank has a lid on top with grow sites filled with growing media and plants. So basically you're floating all your plants in grow media on top of your pond. Not something that I'm doing. Not something that I'm willing to try, because I prefer my fish get light. I'm not getting nocturnal fish. So, and then they have this NFT, the Nutrient Film Technique. I haven't done a whole lot of reading on it. It says NFT works similar to media bed systems, except for it involves grow pipes with constant trickle of water flowing through them rather than a bed that's flooding and draining. So as I read that and think, that sounds more like the horizontal or vertical grow beds that I want to try, because I'm going to have chickens in my garden. I'm putting in 3 PVC pipes to hold up a giant bird net, so I can tint it, so more space. I can actually walk through it without hitting my head on nets. But what I want to do is run water to the top of each one and have it, I'm using 3. They're 9 foot tall. I use 3 foot wide or 3 inch piping and put holes in it and put plants in there, so we have a vertical garden. It's an idea. It may not work. It may not happen right away. It might be a next year project as we go through, but it's cool. It's something I want to try as far as that goes. Now, a lot of people use IBC totes, IBC liquid transport totes. They cut them down, 16-inch deep. Use one side, or because they can get 2 grow beds out of it, and then they buy another IBC for their fish tank and another IBC for their sump tank. The thing is, I'm not using a sump tank. Sounds kind of funny, but I'm not using a sump tank. I'm using a filter, but I'm not using a sump tank. But they use these IBC totes because they can buy them. They're cheap, and most of them are food grade. So anything you're buying for this that water goes through or you're keeping fish in needs to be food grade of some type. I'm using the pond liners, which are food safe for my pond, and I'm using a food safe container to make my filter system out of. And obviously, I'm just going to use PVC piping because it's cheap and readily available. And unlike my goat house and my goat pen area, I'm actually going to buy the stuff because I'm trying to keep a running total for you guys out there, how much it costs to build this thing. Obviously, not including labor, because labor is expensive. About $30 an hour to do this kind of stuff, from what I'm finding out. But back to where was I at? That's the NFT system. No. Oh, you're also going to have to get a water testing system that tests for ammonia, nitrates, pH, all that stuff. And once it's leveled out where you need it, it tends to maintain itself. Right now, when you're first starting, don't put fish in it day one. You need to get the nutrients running first. You need to get the pH balance. And the first time you fill it, obviously, you're probably filling it with city water or well water. If you're using well water, it doesn't take near as long. I'll be filling mine with city water at first just to get the system going, and then UV radiation and all that craziness will clean that water out. It'll sit there for a few days. I'll put in all the wonderful stuff that they provide. You go on the website and buy to get it going. As far as figuring out the pH, nitrates, nitrides, and all that craziness, throwing in some fish food, throwing in a little bit of ammonia, some foods, some fish safe ammonia bacteria to get the water prepped, get rid of the chlorine and fluoride and all that stuff they put in our water, and get it safe for fish. So it'll be about a week after I get the system set up. Once I get the pH levels and nitrates and nitrates all going, then I'll introduce my fish. And like I said, I really want to do prawns or crayfish or crustaceans of some type. I don't like tilapia. To me, it's a fake fish because you go to Africa, the fish are this big, not, these 40-pound monsters you can buy in the store now. But that is, that's where it is. Of course, this list here tells me to move surplus fish to another tank. They really recommend you have one fish per plant. 403 gallons, if I'm going to do traditional tailed fish, will allow me to have 35 fish in it. If I was doing tilapia, I could put 35 tilapia, full-size tilapia, in my 403-gallon fish tank. I don't want to do tilapia. At most, I might do bluegill. If I can keep the water cool enough and create enough water flow with the pumps I'm using, I will do trout. And that might be in a different pond later. But eventually, I'd like to do trout because trout's yummy. Bluegill brim is really good. Crustaceans is kind of where I want to be. Freshwater prawns, crawfish, that kind of stuff. Not because it's easier, but because I like to eat them. So, excuse me. I'd rather raise something I want to eat. And I was watching a YouTube channel the other day. This guy in Australia, him and his wife did a challenge in the Australian wintertime to survive only on what they grow in the backyard. And since it's wintertime, it was pretty entertaining because basically leaf vegetables is all they had. Maybe some carrots, potatoes weren't growing, onions were growing, but they didn't really have a protein source because their chickens were for laying eggs, and they didn't have a whole lot of chickens laying eggs. So his wife was getting eggs, but he wasn't. Their quail that they raise weren't at the point where they should be eating them. It was just a whole lot of, I wouldn't have done this in the wintertime, but it's also reason why I want to do aquaponics. Because if I am out of meat, because my hunting season was weird. Anyway, if I don't get meat in the wintertime during hunting season, then at least I have some type of protein, more than one proteins in my backyard that I can go to and survive off of. Freshwater prawns are basically baby lobsters. They're pretty good size and they're tasty. So I can have prawns, chicken eggs, a chicken that's not producing, something. I can put meat on my table along with potatoes and carrots and beans and all this other crazy stuff that we're growing. And as far as the experiment goes, I underestimated the amount of time, or overestimated the amount of time it would take for those plants to grow. 4 days. 4 days in that first little greenhouse box. So Saturday, I planted another 154 plants in the method we were talking about. And I will check them tomorrow to see if anything's sprouting in those. And what the rate is right now. No, that was Sunday. So right now they've only had 2 days. So I'll check those tomorrow, figure it out. What's growing faster, the egg crates or the greenhouse boxes. But obviously I can't do anything with them yet because it's going to freeze this weekend, and all of them will die if I put them outside. Unless I get the greenhouse built by then, which is the plan. We're trying here. We're trying. So I want to put this out there on the interwebs. Any questions or comments, go ahead and post them up, and we'll try to find the answers for you. If I can spell. I can't spell today. I can't type today. We're getting there. We're getting there, I promise. All right, back to this wonderful thing here. Selecting fish. The average aquaponics system, carp, crappie, catfish, goldfish, tetra, and tilapia are the safest species to choose. Are we going to eat carp or tetra or goldfish? If we got really, really hungry, maybe. And I don't even want to eat tilapia. So none of those are on my list. Catfish might be an idea. I'm not a huge fan of catfish unless they're channel cats. I don't like mud cats. Yeah, I know I'm a strange southern boy that doesn't like catfish. But that's where I'm at. Now, there's a list of pros and cons for these store-bought aquaponic systems. So the pros, comes with everything, built by professionals, includes instructions, custom-made, tailored to your order. Most of them have a 30-gallon reservoir. And like I said, they cost a ton of money. That's the cons. Like, a lot. I was looking at them today. You're looking at, for a setup that isn't just you put it on your back porch and it's like 30 gallons of water, you're looking at $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for a system. And that's not including plants or fish. You still have to go out and get those. And I'm already with the greenhouse and the pond liner and the concrete blocks, and not including labor and fuel cost. I'm already $1,000, just over $1,000 in building mine. But it's not $7,000. I still got to build my 2 grow boxes, which I already have 2 built. I just got to turn them into aquaponic system. And they're not going in the greenhouse. So I've already got 2 of those. I just got to convert them. I built those a couple of years ago. But we still got to build the rest of the stuff. The bird net cost me $30. It's a 50 by 50, 2.4 inch netting. Yes, and I said my grow yard is 56 feet long. Well, like I said, it's only 24 foot wide, so I can basically cut this thing in half and then piecemeal it together if I have to. And that's kind of the plan. It's $30 is, not very much, and PVC pipes not very much. So we'll make this work. It's the plan of action. So basic things, though, is make sure you choose the right location. I live in the southern United States, here in the great state of Macon, Georgia. See how enthused I am about where I live? Macon, Georgia, home of the red dirt clay and really good peaches, and my kids. So that's why I live in Georgia. But here in the great state of Georgia, I plant everything so it gets all the sun during the day. So where the greenhouse is going, even though the sun sets or rises in the front of the house, the shadow from the house only covers that spot for about an hour. Because once that sun comes up, that spot gets sun all day until right at sundown, and then the trees behind the fence provide some shade. But that one spot gets all the sunlight. So you're looking at, if the sun comes up at 6 a.m, doesn't go down until 9, 10 o'clock at night, you get a lot of sun. So make sure you look at the way the sun rises and sets in your area, how the sun travels during the day, for where you are located in the United States or in the world, and plan your setup accordingly. If I was in the southern hemisphere, I'd have to do it reverse. My greenhouse would be going north, not south. So make sure you understand how you're setting up your plants and your greenhouse, because we don't want to we want to grow stuff, not grow stuff. So make sure you really look at what you're setting up. It says choose the best fish for your local environment and plants. It's important. Water too hot, fish ain't gonna make it if they're cold water fish. AKA, Jason can't do trout unless I can keep my water temperatures below 68 degrees, which I have a plan for. Don't know if it's going to work, but something we'll talk about at some other point. Keep your system well balanced and equipment clean. As I was talking about your piping and making sure your surfaces are smooth, your pipes are smooth. Make sure that stuff doesn't get lodged in your pipes, creating harmful bacteria and poisoning your fish or plants. We don't want that. We want your fish to live to maturity so you can harvest them and put them in your freezer or on your dinner table as you need them. We don't want them dying and then being unuseful other than for fertilizer for the plants that are in the ground, because you can't just throw them in your plants that aren't in the ground and then expect them to break up. Stick to the basics. Don't try advanced techniques first. That is not how Jason does things. I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you. But I don't do things halfway. Oh, this is just a test run. I do test runs, but my plan is this time next year, before this time next year, about 6 months from now, not having to walk into a grocery store with a fistful of dollar bills to buy my necessities. Fruits, vegetables, meats, that kind of stuff. If I can provide all the vegetables, salad materials, most of my proteins outside of a supermarket environment, not only is it saving me money, it's going to make sure that my family can survive. And that's what's important. And with the setup I'm trying to do, I should be able to take care of my immediate family, my wife, my kids, all of my kids, whether they like me or not, kids, whether they want my help in that situation or not whether they like me. Whether they want my help in that situation or not, I should be able to have enough food stored up to take care of my immediate family. And I should be able to provide some sustenance for those outside my family if I need to. That's what I'm trying to set up. I want to have an abundance, because if you have an abundance, it means you have enough. And that's the system I'm trying to set up. So I don't do basic stuff, which it says, don't try advanced techniques at first. Well, if I don't consider them really advanced, even though I've never done an aquaponics system yet, then how are they advanced? Anyway, keep fish well fed, but avoid overfeeding them. Okay, so that's actually really important. Really important step here. The more you feed your fish, the more waste they're going to produce. And of course, faster they're going to grow, they'll get overweight, and there is such thing as an overweight fish. But the more waste they produce, if they're producing more waste than your system can handle, you'll poison your plants and your fish. So you have to monitor how much you're feeding your fish and how much waste is produced by testing the pH levels, nitrites, nitrates, and ammonia in your water. So that's why it's really important until you have it set up and have a system and have everything dialed in the way you need it to have it. You have to be testing your system almost daily. But then once you have it balanced, you have to test it weekly. You have to check and make sure if your fish are alive and your plants are alive, make sure that level is right where you need it. So, but the important way you do that is making sure your fish are fed properly. And it's really important. So, all right. Maintain a good balance of fish to plants. That's what I was talking about. 1 fish per plant is the recommended. Like I said, I'd have to put like 1,000-gallon tank in for that. So there's going to be times where in my system I'm going to have to supplement with something else. But at least as long as they get the water and the nutrients, we'll be testing this hypothesis of mine later. So once we get it running, we'll see. We'll see if that rings true. Avoid overcrowding the fish tank. Move baby fish to another tank. There's a couple reasons for this. If you have fish spawning in your tank, great, amazing. You want that. And you have a self-sustaining, population of fish. That's great. However, fish fry die faster than adult fish. So you're going to be messing up your pH balance. 2, adult fish eat baby fish. So as soon as your fry hatches, if you didn't notice, or the fish you use are doing live birth, you're going to want to take a little skimming net and grab all those baby fish and move them to another pond. See, this is why I'm building another pond. A second pond. Not only is that to feed the water back into my system as it needs, it's also to move my baby fish into until they are big enough to go in the main tank, and I harvest the other fish out. You got to be planning in advance for this kind of thing. You can't say, oh my God, the fish had babies. Now I got to go build this other spot or create another tank. So do that beforehand, plan for it. It's going to happen. Fish do spawn. It says, react to situations as they arise. Don't dilly-dally. Which is true. However, plan ahead, anticipate the problems you're going to have. And then try to fix them before those become problems. Obviously, there's always going to be an emergency. I plan on having at least 1 backup pump. None of my electrical system, after I get it set up, will be on the grid. I want to be running solar panels, off-grid situation, off-grid completely. So my pumps will run off solar. My lights will run off solar. My grow heaters will run off solar. Everything I have that's going into this will eventually be running off solar purely. Whether that means I'm putting in the 1,200 watt system, which is what I have in the back of my head that I want to do, running a battery bank to run inverters so I can provide 110 instead of running everything 12 volt, or just running, a solar panel to a battery to a 12 volt setup, which is probably what it will start out being. A small, 12 volt solar panel, 100 watts, going to a battery running a 12 volt system. It'll work. It's effective. It's cheap and readily available. But eventually, the plan is to run a big enough solar panel system to run big pumps and bigger electrical footprint without being on grid. Keep a notebook, track progress, and learn from mistakes and successes. Well, that's with everything in life. Figure out how you're going to do things before you're going to do it, and then keep track of the way you were doing it that worked or didn't work. It's like anything else we do in life, I think. I've got notebooks. I've got a bunch of these things that just, constant reminders of everything that I've done, because up here in my head is a little metal plate because I drilled a hole in it. and I forget a lot of things, which is why I keep learning things, because the more I learn, the more I forget. So I might as well make good use of it. That's how I see it anyway. But make sure you know what you're doing. So like every time you test a pH, and nitrates, ammonia system, ammonia in your tank, write it down so you can keep track of it. Be like, all right, this week it was at this level. These were at this level. These are my readings. These are my findings. We're good. Next week, oh my God, they're different. Everything's still alive. They're still in that bit of, they're still in that marginal area. They're not killing anything. But I look back and say, oh my, my ammonia is wrong. Too much ammonia is bad. So you figure out what you did different between week 1, week 2 by looking at your notes going, I harvested 2 fish. I forgot to change the amount of food I'm putting in there. Now these fish are eating too much. It's changing the amount of ammonia. So make sure you take notes. As we know, moving on, obviously, I'm about $1,000 into my system. Obviously, $800 of that cost is my greenhouse. So if you're not putting it in a greenhouse, it's going to cost you less. And a lot of these aquaponic systems you see when they're saying, oh, it's going to cost you at least $1,000 to build, they're buying pre-made tanks. So they're going to Lowe's, they're going to an aquaponics store, or going online and ordering, and they're buying a ready-made tank for the fish, and those are quite expensive. Whereas me, I'm digging a hole in the ground. I'm going to line it with concrete and put a pond liner in it. The reason I'm lining it with concrete so the sides don't cave in on me. I don't want to kill my fish. I want them to stay there. So that's the plan with that. I'm cutting I added cost by doing the greenhouse. I'm cutting cost by not doing an above ground tank. I mean, I've seen cheaper aquaponic systems that are out in the open where they buy a bunch of cinder blocks, which are $1.89 a piece from Lowe's, extremely heavy, and they build an above ground tank with the cinder blocks and line that with a pond liner, and it works out great for them. And if my in-ground tank doesn't work, that's what I'll do. But right now, I want to try this in-ground tank. Haven't seen really any of those setups working, other than, people doing the stuff where they skim, the on top of the water method, deep water thingy they do. So that's why I want to do this in-ground tank. I also want to try to keep my water cooler than being above ground, which, like I said, ultimately I want to do trout. So if I can keep my water temperature below 68 degrees, I can do trout. Now, there's the other one. All right. So we were talking about what plants we can grow in the aquaponic system, and I got a nice little list. Tomatoes, peppers, because peppers, at least here in Georgia, are incredibly hard to grow in our soil. I have a ton of bell peppers that are going in mine, and a ton of tomatoes. Cucumbers also going into mine. Eggplant, not a fan of eggplant, so I'm not growing any eggplant. I might add it later to see how it does. I'm only growing romaine lettuce right now. I might try iceberg in the wintertime, but lettuce is one of those really, really hardy plants for aquaponic system. Cauliflower, I have 10 cauliflower plants already started. They're growing in a big way right now already. So cauliflower, broccoli is going in my aquaponics. Spinach is one of those, like I said, leafy greens, great for aquaponics and hydroponics. And I am definitely doing spinach. I've got 40 of those seedlings already started for spinach. I like it better than lettuce. It actually has nutritional value. Green beans, another one. Squash, these are all the ones that you saw me put in those little grow containers, are all great for aquaponics. Peas, cabbage, my wife's Irish. Eventually, I'll do cabbage. It's more colder environment than middle of the summertime Georgia. So after I do some harvesting, I will probably go to cabbage. Radishes, like I said, I don't understand how tubers grow in aquaponics. I did start some radishes. I'm going to try it. I'm afraid I'm going to get some rocks in my mouth. Strawberries. Those are the things that I want to do those vertical aquaponic systems for. Is the strawberries. I have rabbits. No, not farm rabbits. These are rabbits that just somehow get into my yard and my dogs find. But if they know I have a garden, they won't be with the dogs. They'll be with the chickens. So I really don't want my strawberries on the ground. That's what I want to do. Those take those 3-inch PVC pipes that are going to be holding up my bird net in a tent formation. There are going to be 3 of those, 9 feet long, that I want to turn into vertical aquaponic gardens. And strawberries do really, really well in those. Since I'm going to have a bird net, I don't have to worry about birds coming and eat my strawberries. So that's, strawberries are one thing I'm definitely doing. Pomegranates. Okay. I haven't thought about that. Blueberries. I'm having a really hard time with my blueberry bushes. We had 6 or 5 last year. Looks like only 2 are coming back. Keep you posted on that. They're in pots right now. Once I get everything going, I might plant those in the grow area back in the back by the fence. I don't know yet. We'll see how those go. Dwarf fruit trees. I'm not doing any dwarf fruit trees. However, when we start our little mini orchard in the back, I hope to have the other pond set up with other fish in it that will be watering those trees. It won't be aquaponics, but it'll have the same basics of fish feeding the plants. Herbs, chives. Okay, so basically any herbs, arugula, basil, watercress, if you need that kind of stuff. Amaranth, it's on the list. I don't know what it is. Never used it, never heard of it. So mustard green, just remember, if you plant mustard green in your aquaponics, you will later have it all over your yard. Wheatgrass grows really well in aquaponics. Alfalfa. Well, I have horses, so maybe I'll try alfalfa. I don't know. Maybe some of that stuff will be my winter crop to go along with my summer crops. I plan on doing this year round. Like I said, there's things in Georgia I can't grow in the summertime. And since I'm doing the greenhouse, there'll be things I can grow in Georgia you can't grow anywhere else. Or you can grow only in northern states. And since I'm using lava rock and one of my favorite berries in the world is huckleberry, I am going to try to grow at least 2 huckleberry bushes in my aquaponic setup inside the greenhouse. I'm going to try it. They tell me they only grow in the mountains in Montana, Idaho, and nobody can seem to cultivate them into a farm. I don't know. Got to try it. I'm using lava rock. They grow in lava fields. So that is what it's at. And first and foremost, they say tomatoes grow the fastest in an aquaponic system. And I've got to believe them because the ones I've actually seen, you're looking at from plant to harvest 20 days in some aquaponic systems with tomatoes. If I can get tomatoes red in 20 days from the day from seedling to harvesting in 20 days, that would be amazing. I mean, I don't like tomatoes on everything, but I do like tomato sandwiches. A little mustard, a little bit of salt, 2 pieces of bread, rock and roll tomato sandwiches. My wife really likes BLTs, and if I'm growing lettuce and tomatoes, all I got to do is go to the woods and get some bacon. So we got ways to do things around here. So I'm going to ask you now, go ahead and join us, like our Facebook page. It's at Backyard Prep on Facebook, at Backyard Prep. Go ahead and go to our YouTube channel, like it. Guns, Vets, Survival, one word. On YouTube, you'll find all these videos Go to the CTW TV network. If you're not there, CTW Media Group, there's Facebook pages and their YouTube channels. Go there, like those, share them. And I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Next week, we have a guest coming on, but my buddy Bull. I'll let him introduce himself next week. Extraordinary guy, does all my leather work for my custom-made knives, fixes my saddles, makes the saddlebags for my wife's bike. Monster of a dude, giant hands, does really intricate work. But right now, he's also got chickens hatching. So next week, we're going to cover some chickens. We're going to cover the goats. And I might have the baby chicks here in the studio to show, how to set up for baby chicks. And he'll walk us through it as I do it because, hey, that's what he does. And that'd be great. We're going to talk about goats, the problems with goats, raising goats, how we're going to do goats, and all this other fun stuff. Because I had goats, as you could see on the pictures from earlier, and it was an unsuccessful venture, which is pretty sad for me because I liked the goats. They were kind of cool. Hopefully, we get the guy from Australia to come on the show. Right now, we're trying to figure out some scheduling issues. It is a drastic change in time. So either I'm going to have to pre-record it and be up at 3 o'clock in the morning, or he's going to be up at like astronomical early or late night trying to get on the show to talk to us. So trying to work that one out. We'll figure out how that goes. And we do have a show scheduled about, alternative power means for your backyard and your home. Because we're not just going to talk about aquaponics and gardening on Backyard Prepiversity. We're going to talk about all of it. Things to get ready for the what ifs, if happens, and fun times that, we're in right now. So thanks to Dan Meadows for allowing me to do the show. Thanks to my wife for allowing me to do the show. We will see you guys next week. Love you all. Remember, it's your land, your survival. Y'all have a good night.